Hi, this is Mariah Gullo from The Hollywood Reporter, and I'm in studio with Kevin McKidd today.
How you doing?
Kevin.
Good to see you.
And
you.
So we're here to talk all things Grey's Anatomy, and I just want to kick it off for the Grey's Anatomy fans. I want to give them what they want. We're wrapping up on season 14. Yep. Can you give me a word or phrase, just a little tease about what's happening, how the season is resolving?
A word or phrase, I would say, this show's 14 seasons. It's a complete miracle. I mean, very rarely do shows go for 14 seasons. It's a thing to be celebrated. So I would say our finale is going to be, in a sense, very celebratory. Celebratory.
I like that. Very nice. Yeah. That's a good tease. So you direct a lot of the episodes for Grey's Anatomy, so you have a different perspective than just being an actor.
Right.
I know that Shonda is kind of tight-lipped about where things are going, and she'll only say as much as an actor needs to know.
Right.
But as a director of the episodes, do you get more information than your fellow co-stars?
You do a touch. I mean, again, the whole point of the show is to keep the audience surprised and also to keep us as the actors surprised, so we're not meant to know exactly what's coming. Yeah. So I think it really works well because it keeps a lot of that interest and intrigue for the audience, but also for us as the actors. To not know where you're headed sometimes gives you an ability to just be in the moment and just play the character at that moment in their lives, because that's kind of the whole point of our show, is that you don't know what is coming down the line. You don't know what tomorrow brings. So, I would say as a director on the show, we get a little bit more information if there's a specific scene or moment that we have to direct where they say, oh, and you should tell the actor that the reason they're doing something in this episode that might feel a little strange is because there's something coming in the next episode where it pays off or something like that. Yeah. But it's very case by case specific because, Shonda and the writers are very tight-lipped, and as they should be. I think that's the prerogative of writers and people who create in that way, is that there's that analogy of if Picasso had 10 people looking over their shoulder while he was painting, would his paintings be as good? And probably not.
Yeah.
It's that element of going, they need to sort of incubate those ideas in complete privacy for them to be fully formed and as entertaining as they are, So yeah, we get a little bit of insight, but again, we don't get told much either. Right. We get told all we need to know, and that's it. So it's not, they don't suddenly open Pandora's box and say, look, here's all the secrets of the season. We get told things on a need to know basis.
Need to know still. So have you been the one who've had to disseminate some important information to some of your co-stars? Like, what has that experience been like?
I think it's less important information, but it's definitely when actors have questions about why is my character doing this and why is my character being this way and why is my character saying these words in this scene when it doesn't feel fully organic. That's when my job as a director is to come in and say, well, remember, this is going to happen, or this is where we're headed, in a sort of rough sense. So yeah, I think that's the job as the director, really, is just to help. Right. Just to help actors. I mean, some directors show up and they kind of act like Orson Welles or Stanley Kubrick or something. It's and it's a different job in TV. You can definitely have authorship and ownership as a director, but only to a limited extent. You're a guest at somebody else's party. Yeah. It's the actors who are there full time, and the writers, and you're kind of there as an invited guest to help and contribute, but not take over.
And how do your co-stars feel about you being the director? You guys know each other so well.
I think it helps. I think this episode that airs this week, episode 17, is a very interesting episode. There's only 3 or 4 stories. Usually on our show we have, 7 to 10 stories that we tell throughout one episode. So you only get a certain amount of minutes to tell those stories. Whereas the episode that I got to direct only had 3 or 4 key stories. In fact, it was only 3 stories. And that gave us the opportunity to play it more like theatre. And I think what was interesting about that was I actually got to direct a lot more than I normally do, because you know, a lot of the time you're just kind of going, okay, let's tell that story quickly because we've got to make time for this. But suddenly we had all this time in this episode. I'm really proud of the episode, and it feels almost like watching 3 one-act plays. And we don't usually get that opportunity on our show, so I feel really lucky, you know, that we got that, and I'm very proud of it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
If you were able to use the Grey's Anatomy set after hours for your own indie movie,
right?
What would you want to do there?
That's a cool idea. Never thought of that. It would probably be some kind of... One of the early movies I did was Neil Marshall's Dog Soldiers, which was a werewolf movie.
Yeah.
And Neil Marshall went on to do The Descent, and he directed a lot of the bigger episodes of Game of Thrones, and he's doing great. But I was the lead actor in his first werewolf movie. So it kind of, until that point, I wasn't that into those kind of genre picks. But working with Neil and seeing the level of craftsmanship it takes to make a zombie movie or a werewolf movie or something like that, it could be kind of fun to do a hospital-based zombie movie. That's what I'd probably do. A kind of comedy, horror, zombie movie set in a hospital.
Yeah.
There you go, that's what I'd do.
That sounds good.
Because, you know, the good thing about zombie movies is you get a lot of production value out of the zombies. You don't have to go out on location, because I'm always thinking about budget.
That's true. Very good. And you've already got your free sets. So
exactly. So yeah, exactly. That's a good call. Yeah.
Can we talk a little bit about Trainspotting?
Sure. Yeah.
Can you tell me what you've learned from the experience of Trainspotting? Like, it obviously kind of changed the course of your life.
Yes.
When you look back at it now, do you see anything that really sticks out to you? Like anything that you would have done differently, or anything that you realized was like the big game changer?
Trainspotting was a long time ago, so the memory of it is pretty distant in my mind. But I was a very young man, you know, I was 21 years old when we did that, and it was really the second job I got when I left drama school as a theatre student. And I was really into theatre, and I only thought I was going to be a theatre actor. I had no desire or ambition to move into TV or film. You know, I was just really into theatre and Shakespeare and all that stuff. And then Danny Boyle, I meet him and land this job, not really knowing how I landed it. You know, I just went in the room, and this is what happens sometimes. You're just the right person for that part. And watching Danny work, and he really taught me how to be a film actor. Because I never learned at theatre school how to land on a mark or find my light or use the lens and have a relationship with the lens to tell a story. You know, you always were being taught to perform for 1,000 people, and suddenly there was this much more intense and much more, you know, it's a tricky thing to figure out as a theatre actor. What is my relationship with this lens? Because now this lens is my audience. How do I work with that lens? And Danny was amazing at teaching about that and teaching about this. I mean, that movie still is so stylistic and so kind of, I mean, I think it still stands up as a movie. Not many movies from the 90s still stand up. You know, they're starting to date quite badly, a lot of them. But that movie still stands up. It stands the test of time. So I think I've noticed since I started directing that a lot of the tricks, because a lot of what directors do visually are tricks, you know, that Danny used to tell a story in a kind of, with a slightly less pedestrian, slightly cooler point of view, I've been applying just unconsciously. You know, I've been kind of stealing. So, you know, there's that thing about being a director, you steal from the people that you're fans of. So I've stolen a ton of shots. Sorry, Danny, I've stolen a ton of your shots. I've stolen shots from you. I've stolen shots from probably most directors that I've worked with. You know, I got to work with Ridley Scott a few years after that, and in my small way, I try and emulate those great filmmakers. You know, and I'm finding myself applying it without even thinking about it, because just standing on a set as an actor and watching the director line up a shot and work with his crew and work with his actors to get the visual impact that he's trying to achieve and the story point he's trying to get across and the emotional response from an audience, it just you soak it in as a young actor, you know, and I can feel it starting to come out now, which is kind of cool and exciting.
Yeah, yeah. But not every actor wants to go down that directing path.
Right.
But it sounds like from the beginning, not only did you have amazing directors that you were
Right.
working with, but you were absorbing from the very beginning.
Yeah, I didn't even know I was. I didn't sit around on those sets going, I'm going to be a director one day. I was just happy being an actor. So it wasn't part of my goal or path to become a director. It just sort of happened organically, you know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. People have you always wanted to direct? And I'm like, I can be honest, like, no. I love acting, and I still love acting, and that's still really my first love. But I've noticed that I feel like I'm getting more. I feel like there's more and more I'm able to say through directing now. But I don't feel as though that's pushing acting for me to the side. I feel as though they're both as valid for me, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then a couple of decades later, here you are, like, giving the old Danny Boyle treatment to the Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah, I try. You know, I do try. You know, you can only push it so far until it breaks. I've had a few times where people are like, I think what you're trying to do is a little too much for our show.
Maybe the focus on the scalpel or the pills.
Yeah.
No drug trips, no crazy drug trips.
I do try and push it a little too far sometimes. People are like the DP and people are like, just bring it back a little bit. Be more in the realm of Grey's Anatomy.
Right.
And and that's fine.
I like
you know.
that.
Yeah.
I'm going to look for that now.
I try and change it up a little bit, you know.
Excellent. Okay, I have a couple of quick questions before I let you go. The first job that made you think, I've made it, even if it wasn't true.
Wow. I remember, let me think. I never feel like I've made it, you know. I feel like that's the eternal torture of being an actor, I think, or being in this business, is you constantly feel like the sword of Damocles is going to come and fall on you, and it's all going to be over, you know, and you're going to be back working in a supermarket, stacking shelves or something. But I would say when I was offered the show Rome for HBO, because I'd never even been interested, to be honest, in moving away from Europe. I was very happy working on independent films in Europe and doing theatre in Europe and playing the occasional part in an American film. I was quite happy with that. And then suddenly this show came along and it kind of opened this big door to me as an actor. And I was like, wow, there's this whole world over here that I didn't even really consider. You know, a lot of British actors, all they think about is getting to Hollywood or getting to this side of the pond, but it wasn't for me at all. So when that happened, I was like, wow, this is... And then when I came here, because of Rome, I suddenly realized that this is really the center. So that job, Rome, was very much a kind of pivotal role for me. It really kind of opened a lot of doors, you know. It made people go, wow, this guy... Because up until that point, I'd basically been a young character actor in the UK. Played kind of villains or comedy roles. That was kind of what I did. And suddenly I was kind of considered as this leading man type character. And that was a game changer for me, for sure.
Yeah. Best day on the set of Grey's this season?
There was the episode that airs this week. There's a sequence, and it's very much like a one-act play where Sarah Drew's character connects with a rabbi who is dying from quite a rare complication of taking antibiotics, which they don't really tell you about, but there's a rare chance that antibiotics, just normal antibiotics, can kill you. And this is what's happening to this rabbi, played by the brilliant Saul Rubinek, who's one of the best character actors that I think I've ever had the luck to work with. And really the whole act, so it's about 10 or 12 minutes, is just Sarah Drew and this dying rabbi talking about theology and philosophy and what is the meaning of life, because our character is going through a big crisis of faith. And that sequence we shot with 3 cameras. We shot it basically as a one-act play with a few special shots, and allowed the actors, and I helped the actors kind of choreograph what the blocking was and what the moments were and all this stuff, and then just kind of rolled the cameras and let them do their thing, which is quite rare in television, you know, to let actors have 12 minutes of uninterrupted focus on just acting. And I feel like that was a real achievement. That was probably the most I felt the most proud about that day, about being able to create that kind of work environment for two great actors to just be actors and expose their truth without makeup and hair coming in every 2 seconds and fixing them or tweaking with their costumes or changing the lights. I felt really proud of that.
Oh, that's lovely. I think you answered my next question, which is last Grey's actor who impressed you with their performance while directing them.
It's hard because so many are brilliant. I mean, but I will say Saul Rubinek in that sequence, because Sarah Drew, I mean, she's a brilliant actress, but Saul, she had to be in a very, very exposed place as an actor, and Saul, in a very selfless way, she had to basically cry a lot throughout these 12 minutes, or not throughout, but at certain moments. Mm-hmm. And Saul, who's this beautiful man, just this beautiful person, would, in between takes, kind of keep Sarah in this, and Sarah will talk about it herself, kind of keep Sarah in this really focused, fragile, vulnerable place just by telling her stories and keeping her. So there was this, I mean, I've just never seen a guest actor come on our set and bring so much. Wow. You know, I was really blown away by him. Really, truly blown away by Saul. Worst mistake you made and how did you fix it? Keep that very generic, so you can go in life anywhere. or in life, directing, acting. Oh my god! Career. Worst mistake I've made, and how did I fix it? I made tons of mistakes as a director, you know, and that's part of the trick, is you have to tap dance, you know, like you shoot a master and suddenly you realize that you've done the coverage on the wrong side of the line, or you've backed yourself into a corner and there's nowhere to put the cameras, and then you have to really tap dance at those moments and get out of the fix that you put yourself in, you know. Yeah. And I've done that quite a few times, but luckily the DPs have usually come to my rescue and said, "Hey Kev, you know, we'll put the cameras here, you'll be fine. Yeah, you can wipe your brow." But I do that a lot. I'm like, "Hey, how about we put the cameras here?" And they're like, and then we do it, and I'm like, "Oh no, this doesn't make any sense visually." So I've done that a lot. Yeah, that's pretty bad. It takes a village. It takes a village. You have to know, and also I think to be a good director, you have to be very willing to admit that you're wrong and admit quickly. I've seen directors who are so proud that they won't allow themselves to admit that they made a mistake. Right. And 2 hours later, we're still trying to fix the mistake. It's like, well, if you just admitted it straight away. Frustrating. So I'm pretty good at admitting my missteps. Well, I love to hear that. Thank you so much for your humility. I'm sure the actors of Grey's Anatomy also appreciate that. Kevin McKidd, thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Check out Grey's Anatomy on ABC. Thank you. Bye.